Hello and welcome to this BridgeTech Academy video. In this video we're going to be looking at a really exciting new feature in the 6.2 software release. It's the new recording option. Now this is going to give us the ability to record up to 200, yes, 200 live streams. So let's take a look and see how it works. Okay, so let's have a look at this VB220 software probe. Now, as you can see at the top, this is a beta release and we're running this as a test platform at the moment. If we look at the About tab, we can see it is in fact a beta software release. And looking at the License tab, we can see that the record function is in fact an option. So this needs to be purchased in addition to the probe itself. So record function brings us a new tab, and the first screen that we see is the dashboard, and this is telling us what's currently set up. Now as you can see, we've got a stream called Deluxe Music and it's awaiting a trigger. That is because we've assigned to the stream this particular threshold. Now let's take a look at the streams for a start. So here in the configuration tab will be all of the streams that are currently joined on the probe. Now if we look down at SCT35 Deluxe Music, we can see that this is the only stream which has a threshold assigned to it. So that means that this is the only stream that is going to record when a trigger comes along, an appropriate trigger comes along. Going back to the dashboard, we can see there it is, it's awaiting the trigger. None of the other streams that are currently joined on this probe have a threshold assigned to them. So they're sitting there doing nothing. There are no triggered recordings that are going to happen to any of these streams. However, we can of course press the record button and do a manual recording on any of these streams. Let's pick the Bloomberg stream, shall we? So I'm going to click the record button on the Bloomberg stream, and if we go down to the dashboard, you can now see that the dashboard shows that Deluxe Music is still waiting for a trigger, but Bloomberg is actually doing a recording. So with this particular license, we can do up to 200 simultaneous recordings. So I'm going to stop that recording. Deluxe Music is still there because it's awaiting a trigger. And if we go to the Recordings tab itself, we can see we've got quite a few recordings. In fact, we've got 2,982 recordings down at the bottom. But we also have that manual recording that we just did of Bloomberg. Now, the SCT35 event in and outs queues have caused the Deluxe Music to trigger, well, 2,981 times in the past. So that triggered recording continues for as long as it remains configured. We can download the TS file. Remember, these are transport stream files, and we can download the metadata, which gives us, well, we'll have a look at one in a moment and see. But let's go and have a look at the threshold and see how we set these thresholds up. We've got two thresholds. The SCT35 threshold, which is basically looking for an SCT35 in and out queue, and there you are, you can see that one. And the MLR test is looking for any Ethernet alarm where the media loss rate is over the error threshold or the warning threshold. So either of these conditions will trigger a recording. As you can see on the left, we have multiple trigger events that will start a recording. I'm not obviously going to go through all of those, so we'll leave that the way it is and close that. So now we can see that the SCT35 has one stream referenced, of course the Deluxe Music, and the MLR test threshold has none. So let's go and configure the rest of those streams, and we'll get rid of SCT35 because we don't want to do that, and we'll edit those and we'll give them all the MLR test threshold and close that. just to check the thresholds, we now have 16 streams all waiting the same trigger. So now if we look at our dashboard, we can see that we have those streams, and in fact, as you can see on the right, several of them are actually recording. So we're seeing these MLR errors in real time, and they're causing the triggered recording to start. So if we look at the recordings, there we have multiple recordings. If we go to the setup button, the setup tab rather, we can select how much of the disk must remain free before we start deleting earlier recordings. So when only 10% of the disk remains, this is an additional disk that has to be fitted to the software probe server. Then when 10% of that disk remains, then early recordings, the earliest recordings, will be deleted. And if we click that box there, this will actually enable the protected recordings also to be deleted. So I'm going to turn those off. So let's configure all of these again. What we'll do perhaps is just leave one and we'll put that back to no threshold. In other words, nothing is triggered or going to be triggered. Going back to the dashboard, we can see MTV awaiting a trigger. So does it actually work? Let's see. So go back to the recordings. Let's just pick one of them. Goodness me, a huge number of errors. So let's download the manual recording I did right at the very beginning. So we just download that to our downloads file locally on this PC. So let's just find that and open that with VLC.
And when the money really gets off. Today we're focusing very much on the economic data. U.S. wholesale inventories and durable goods orders for March. This comes out at 8:30 a.m. John was mentioning the regional Fed reports that have come out softer than expected.
So that seems to have worked. What I will do now is I will download one of the error streams, the streams that had an error in media loss rate. So in other words, they lost transport stream packets. So let's actually see whether we can detect anything in the download that might have triggered that recording, whether we can see any video artifacts or maybe hear an audio defect. So we'll show that in the Finder and we'll open that again with VLC.
De spurgte dig, om du ville være med. Heldigvis er der stabilt internet fra Nordlys med wifi i alles hjørner, så du kan hygge dig indtil der er fri bane.
So there was definitely an audio and a video freeze. We saw the video freeze there. So this is showing you how useful the recording function would be in trying to track down errors that have occurred in your monitoring system. Just to look at the metadata, by the way, the metadata is effectively a text file saying how long it was, what the input was, and the media loss rate was over the error threshold. So this was not a warning, this was an error. And the size of the file, the stream name, and the timestamp. So that's a very quick look at the new recording function in the version 6.2 software. I'm sure you'll agree it's a very useful upgrade to the original 2 recordings up to 200, and that customers are going to really find this very, very useful indeed. Well, thanks for watching, and I hope you found this useful.